Thank you everyone for being here today. So the purpose of this is twofold. We are going to be doing monthly roundtables with providers, yet to be determined whether or not we will continue to separate them out the way we are right now in terms of school districts, separate from other providers, separate from family child care homes. But for today, this is what we're going to try. CDEC has requested that the LCO take the lead in making sure that all of our providers in El Paso County are on the same page and up to date with CDEC information. So this is the first of that, and we will be talking about what we do as we move forward before we end this morning. So wanted to first make sure that that you knew who was part of your JIUPK team. Shay Almonte is not with us today. She is the foundation's program director. Many of you know that Shay is pregnant and due any day now. And so while she is out on leave, I will be taking over the role of UPK manager as a consultant. Heather Mayu is one of our family resource navigators. Carla Rivera Ramirez is also a family resource navigator. They spend a tremendous amount of time on the phone with families, trying to find them a place, answering their questions, whatever else is needed. Drew Drescher is on this call. He is the Foundation's Universal Pre-K assistant. And Ryan Berry, who is also on this call, is our data specialist. And man, is he good. So we're excited to have him. And so that's who you're working with. So what we're going to do today is, we already did the welcome and introductions. We're going to talk about UPK in El Paso County by the numbers. It's just going to be a high level that Ryan's going to present. Then we're going to go through the slides that have been provided to us from CDEC for you, and we will answer any questions that you may have around that. And then Yesenia Torres from the Department of Human Services has joined us, and she is going to talk a little bit, or we are going to talk a little bit about how UPK and CCAP work together. And then we're going to talk about dates and times for future roundtables and any additional questions that you may have. So let's move on. Ryan, would you like to go over the UPK by the numbers?
Yes, indeed. Well, good morning, everybody. So as Noreen said, this is just a very high level analysis of the data here in El Paso County. There is so much that we could talk about as far as data in El Paso County that could take up hours and hours. So we are just going to go through some very basic stuff right now. So I'll just go ahead and dive right into it. So the total number of UPK providers in El Paso County is 175. So 79 of those are our private child care centers. 68 of those are school district-based programs. All of the public school districts in El Paso County are currently participating in UPK, which is really great. And we do have 28 family child care homes that are registered as UPK providers in El Paso County as well. So we have received quite a few applications here in El Paso County. We have a total right now of 7,347 active applications. The total number of registered UPK seats amongst our 175 providers is 5,127. There are currently 4,132 4-year-olds enrolled in UPK in El Paso County. We also have 881 3-year-olds enrolled in El Paso County UPK. Of course, those are all through the school districts if they're participating in UPK. And at the moment, we still have around 764 unmatched 4-year-olds in El Paso County. And our navigators are doing an absolutely fantastic job right now, reaching out to every single one of those families and helping them find a provider that will work for them. So that is the data as it stands at the moment.
Thanks, Ryan. by the way, if anybody has any questions that come up while someone is talking, you're free to put them in the chat. Drew is monitoring the chat. And also you're free to raise your hand and ask whatever question you would like to ask. So does anybody have any questions or comments on the data? And by the way, Melissa, we have yours broken down, the ones that are unmatched. We have yours broken down by the 3 zip codes we talked about. I just haven't sent it to you yet. Any questions or comments about the data? Okay, then we're going to go ahead and move on to CDEX slides. A lot of this is going to be very familiar to you if you've been monitoring what is happening. Also, all of this is up on the UPK page on the Joint Initiative site. And Drew, I'm going to ask you to put the link for that in the chat, please. So we're going to talk about matching and enrollment updates, programs and tuition, payments, quality standards, and other resources. So I'm sure you have all figured out by now that there is a weekly algorithm that's being run. So it's being run on Mondays. And then Monday matches are sent to the providers. And just remember that those matches are sent to you as being in placed status. Families cannot see them. This is your opportunity to decline a family between then and Thursday if you need to. No, I'm sorry, Wednesday. They're saying Wednesday. Okay, I learned something today. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you have the opportunity to decline a child if you need to. Friday, the matches are sent to families, and then families have between Friday and the following Thursday to review and accept the match. So remember that place status, families cannot see it. So once the matches are sent to the families on Friday, your list, I believe it says offered or matched. And that's when the family is notified that they have received a match. We have gotten some feedback that not sure that the match notifications are actually going out. We are working with CDEC to see and Bridge Care to see if that is actually happening. So it's probably in your best interest, if you're not going to decline a student, to go ahead and reach out to them and let them know that they have a proposed match with you, and that you ask them whether or not they're interested in that match, so that we can get this facilitated as quickly as possible. If you do have someone who is in place status and you want them to you want to cut through it and you want to get them accepted so you can get them enrolled, you are free to reach out to one of us and say, this child's in place status, please accept them. But don't do it without talking to the parent, please. We're assuming that if you do that you have talked to the parent and that they want the placement. We recently have been given guidance on walk-in enrollment process. This does apply to school districts as well as private providers. The bottom line is that if you have someone who you want to have placed and you don't have anybody in either placed or matched status for that particular seat, you can reach out to us and we will take care of it for you and get that child placed. I think all of you have been really good about reaching out to me when you need that, and we've moved things around, but this is something that has been formally established in the last couple of weeks. So you have the ability to be able to say, hey, place this kiddo here, please. Come on, there we go. All right, so we're going to talk about programs and tuition. So again, I would imagine you've all figured this out by now. And if you haven't, then we haven't been doing a very good job of getting information out. Part-time is 10 hours per week. Half day, either AM or PM, is 15 hours per week, and full day is 30 hours per week. And just as most of you do not, as school districts, do not charge anything for non-UPK hours, but if you do, then the whatever program you are offering, the UPK has to cover the cost of that. You cannot charge families for any additional hours. If you're only charging, if you're only providing 10 hours a week, then you can't charge for any additional hours. So it's common sense, particularly for school districts. I think we'll skip this one because I don't think it pertains to most of you. So provider payments for 4-year-olds, again, we're far enough into this at this point that this shouldn't be a surprise to you. Providers are paid monthly based on the number of 4-year-olds enrolled in a program by the 15th of the prior month. So you will be paid, well, you were paid on October the 8th for families that were in enrolled status on enrolled or accepted status on September the 15th. Beginning this time around on October the 15th, all children had to be in enrolled status. Accepted was no longer a status that was going to be paid. So make sure you get your kiddos into enrolled status as soon as you can. And if for whatever reason we need to correct an enrollment date, you can send that to us and we will work with our folks up at the state to get that backdated so that it's accurate. I do want to point out there is in the payment guide that is up on our site, it does talk about a half-month rate per child, and that will end in December. So after that, they will only be paying in full month increments. Again, this is not anything that you shouldn't already know. For those of you who are offering any full-time, if a child is eligible for a child to be eligible for 30 hours, they have to be low income plus have another eligibility factor, which might be a dual language learner, it might be homeless, it might be a foster child. And so that's the only way that they would qualify for 30 hours of UPK. An IEP plus low income will qualify them for 30 hours. But in order to be paid for 30 hours, the child has to be in a full day program. So just because they qualify for 30 hours, if they're in a 10-hour program, then there's no additional payment. All right, now we're going to talk about the ever popular topic of 3-year-olds. Again, you folks all have to be very aware of this at this point. 3-year-olds have to have at least one qualifying factor to be eligible for universal preschool. Again, we just talked about what those qualifying factors are. 3-year-olds can only apply to their home school district. Now, unfortunately, in Bridge Care, a 3-year-old family can list every single school district if they want to. But, and unfortunately, we spend a fair amount of time working on declines, et cetera, as a result of that, because we don't have a school district except for two here in El Paso County that serves out of district kids. So we have been trying to clean up the applications when we see them, when a family has listed more than one district for their 3-year-old application. We have been trying to verify what their home school district is, withdraw the other applications to try and save you some time and just make sure that the right school district is in the file for you to consider. So I've been spending, when I've come across it, I've been spending a lot of time trying to clean that up so that you don't have to go through and decline these folks. And as you all know, districts can serve directly or contract with a community-based provider. So Jennifer. So if you have a student for only a half month after December, will we get a whole month payment, or we will lose a half month of money? So Jennifer, to be perfectly honest, I'm not completely sure how that is going to work. I had a pretty lengthy conversation with a family childcare provider last week, who is a little bit concerned about how the payment schedule is working out. And so what I've asked her to do is to submit a ticket to Metrics IQ, and you submit it to UPK CO payments. I'll put it in the chat, and submit the ticket there, and ask the question to them. But all I know at this point is what they have said, which is the 15th of the month. Then if they're an enrolled status, that's what you'll be paid for on the 8th of the following month. And after December, they're only paying full month. So my guess is you'll lose a half month of money, but don't quote me. Ask Metrics IQ. Okay, so you're all in the process of attesting to your historical allotment, and you know that has been pushed to 10/31. There are also a couple of webinars that are being offered. Those webinar dates are up on the UPK page for joint initiatives, and you also are, I'm sure, aware that the payments will be distributed as a lump sum on November 3rd based on your historical allowance. And then 3-year-olds with IEPs are being funded separately. Okay, quality standards. So some of you, I think, are participating in the stakeholder group around developing the quality standards. Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot in a minute, since you've been monitoring the Rules Advisory Council and the kinds of things that are happening there. So just a heads up that I'm going to ask you to talk to that a little bit. So these quality standards on the project timeline, as you can see, where we are at this point is the recommendations and the stakeholder engagement. The draft Universal Preschool Quality Standards has been published. And so now they're moving on to research and field specific engagement to inform what they're going to develop was the resource bank. And so then LCOs are going to be asked to specifically provide whatever support is needed to individual UPK providers to be able to meet the quality standards. And, it is, the resource bank is a very important part of that. I don't worry about any of this with school districts, but you should be aware of the fact that the quality standards are being addressed. Ryan, do you have anything to add about the RAC?
I don't believe there's anything additional to add at the moment about the RAC.
Okay. Ryan has been monitoring those meetings for us and provides us with a summary. So if there's anything that you need to know, it will go out either in a newsletter, or it will be posted on the UPK page, or both. So again, you're all familiar with this because you all do it. The quality standards, instructional practice, healthy development, and family and community engagement. And I don't believe that any of these should be a surprise to you. We believe, Melissa, that the quality, let me go back here. So this does point out that the implementation will begin fall of 2024. So it will be for next year. And so it kind of, everything gets backed up from that.
Right. I understand that. I just didn't know if you or Ryan knew when they were taking it to the RAC for final approval by Dr. Roy. I know there were so many questions in the original draft. I'm anxious to see what actually comes out in the final.
Yeah. Just keep monitoring the work of the RAC at this point. And there is a site, if you haven't done it already, there's a site where you can sign up for updates.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, your guess is as good as ours, unfortunately.
You're getting the same information we are, in other words.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. Come on, be nice to me. There we go. So we'll tell you that we have put this slide deck up on the UPK page. It's important for you to know that because we're about to go into some other things that are going to be very difficult to read on the screen. But the links are not working yet. So we are going to go back in and fix those links so that when you go into the slide deck, you can click on anything that's there and it will immediately come up to whatever you clicked on. So here's some related documents for you and we'll fix the links. All right, so it's very important to CDEC that everyone knows that there is opportunities to engage. So the Colorado Universal Preschool Program will email and post the draft rules to solicit additional stakeholder feedback before the draft rules are reviewed by the Rules Advisory Council during the early part of next year. So that should be your question, Melissa. And then there will be a link to provide feedback on the draft rules. All right, there's some funding opportunities. The provider capacity building grants are open until October 31st. This is any universal preschool provider who is active, signed the agreement, and has matches is eligible. So you should have gotten a link from Metrics IQ to be able to apply for that. And provider bonuses. Again, this is providers who have never done the Colorado preschool program. So I think most of you, this would not apply as a school district. Once again, direct links to apply for these opportunities came from Metrics IQ. We do have a list of links for the provider bonus, but again, that's not going to pertain to you. And there's some additional resources here that we want to make absolutely sure that the links are working to these, so we will get that taken care of. And now, so now I'm going to ask for your feedback. We have had a bunch of questions about how UPK and the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program work together. We have Jasenia Torres from the Department of Human Services here, and I'm not sure that this is of interest to you as school districts. And so what I want to know is, should we stop here and answer any questions you have? And then we'll go on with the CCAP presentation. And if you're interested, you can stay. And if you're not interested, you can go do your own thing. Does that sound like a good plan? Okay. All right. So before we go on to the CCAP presentation, then, sorry, Jasenia, hang one more minute. What questions do any of you have that we can hopefully help you with? And if not, we're recording this, and so we will get you the answers and post them. Okay, do you all have a method of feedback to the state for things that you would like to see done differently for the coming year, for year 2? Is there a way for you to, as school districts, for you to be able to provide that feedback?
Not directly to CDEC. We have other sources where we are providing input and then they take it. But we don't have a way of direct input.
Okay. So we have a Southeast in-person meeting coming up on November the 6th, and a part of that for LCOs. And a part of that is going to be planning for year 2. So I would like to suggest to any of you that if you have thoughts as to what you would like us to take to that from a school district perspective, just to be sure that it's covered. If you would send it to me, please. And Ryan is also going to that meeting. And if Shay hasn't had her baby yet, she's going to that meeting too. So please go ahead and send it to me. I put my email in the chat. And you can be as detailed as you like, but we're only going to have an hour and a half to talk about this. So I want to make sure that we at least hit the high points. Okay. And I'd like to know what's gone well. So, you know, if there's something from your perspective that has gone well that you don't want to see them change or do more of, that would be great also. I'd like to know how it was decided which districts were chosen to meet with CDAC. Okay, we'll ask the question. Got me. But it's on the list. All right, we're going to jump into just talking a little bit about how CCAP and UPK works together. I'd like you to meet Jasenia Torres from the Department of Human Services. She and I are going to kind of do this together as best we can. This document is up on the UPK page, and it is difficult to read here, and I get that. But if you go into the UPK page, you can see the document and follow along if you would like. Please remember that this is for this year only. We do not know how this is going to change for next year. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. Jasenia, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Noreen. As Noreen mentioned, my name is Jasenia Torres. I am a program manager with El Paso County Department of Human Services. My oversight covers the Colorado Child Care Assistance Subsidy Program. Super brief, we have a team of 2 supervisors and 10 processing team members that all manage all of the Colorado Child Care Subsidy Program for the entire El Paso County, in which some of your families may be utilizing. So just wanted to put that out there. CCAP is funded through various sources, and so we'll kind of break that down as Noreen and I go back and forth between what is UPK and what is CCAP. And then additionally, I am representing program eligibility, which means we process initial application and determine eligibility for the program subsidy. However, if you have a question that is provider related, fiscal agreement related, financially related to the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program, you're welcome to drop those into the chat. I will bring them back to the teams who process those, and then have that follow up to Noreen so she can share out with you all.
Great. So I think the biggest question that we have had from providers is, can a family be enrolled in UPK and CCAP?
Yes, and definitely families can enroll in both programs. Reminder that CCAP is income-based. It's also activity-based. So if the family is engaged, is meeting the income means test requirement, as well as engaged in an activity that is allowable, they should otherwise meet the criteria to qualify for Colorado Child Care Assistance Program. We do not pre-screen. However, we have an application on the peak.com website, my peak, and families can go there and plug in their information to get a what if and enter their information and get a response as to whether or not they may or may not qualify. We do not discourage anyone from applying, but we cannot determine eligibility without them applying. So we would encourage them to submit an application if they're not sure or they think they may be eligible. This comparison chart Noreen has up on the screen is really good because it breaks down the high-level basic criteria to qualify for the CCAP program, as well as UPK and what the differences between the two are.
So why would a provider want to encourage a child who is on a family who is receiving CCAP to also become enroll in UPK?
Definitely. If I'm a provider, I would absolutely encourage my families to pursue CCAP if they qualify for it, because CCAP will further afford that family opportunity for continuity of care with regards to additional coverage that the family may not otherwise receive under the UPK program. Additionally, if the family is facing some financial hardship, the CCAP program is a subsidy, as mentioned. Additionally, with the CCAP program, families who enroll their kiddos into a provider who is a high quality rated may have a lower copay rate, which is a huge benefit for that family. Again, going back to just really supporting the opportunity for the family to have continuity of care. And if for some reason eventually they will age out of UPK and the family's already attached to the CCAP program, they're meeting the income requirement and the activity requirement, there's that opportunity for the family to continue on and already have care in place without any disruption whatsoever. So if I'm a provider, I'm absolutely going to encourage all of my families to pursue CCAP if I believe that they qualify for it. Just keep in mind, and not a deterrent, but the CCAP application is pretty detailed and every question has to be answered. Anything a family identifies that they have, whether it's an asset, a resource, income, we're going to be seeking verification of that. So just keep that in mind when families are being encouraged to apply. The application I mentioned earlier, the peak.com, where families can check if they have a potential eligibility, is a really good tool for them to utilize to know, like, okay, yep, now is a good time. I've had change in my income. Let me see where that puts me in the criteria of potentially qualifying.
Okay. So if a family is on CCAP and they are also in UPK and they have qualified for 15 hours of UPK, they're in a full day program, let's say, and they are also CCAP eligible. How does the attendance requirement, if there is one, how does that play together with UPK?
That's a really good question. It was a long one, so I want to make sure I captured it all. Also, I do want to mention that Lila Gibson Estrada is on here. She is a CCAP supervisor, so I may defer to her if I misspeak. So Lila, if you hear me misspeak, please chime in. But with regards to if families approved for 15 hours of UPK hours, and then they're also approved for CCAP, we approve CCAP based on what the family requests of us. If the family requests full day care, we're going to approve for full day care. If the family is requesting part-time care, we're going to pay part-time care.
Okay. And if I'm correct about this, and I'm certainly not a CCAP expert, so UPK is not, at least this year, is not based on attendance. It's based on enrollment, whereas CCAP is attendance based, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's two different. The good news is that UPK, you just have to have kids enrolled by the 15th in order to get paid, whereas CCAP, there is a system in which children or families need to sign in each day, and it's based on their attendance. Payment is based on their attendance.
That is correct. Additionally, our county pays up to 7 absences for kiddos, which is higher than what the state actually covers or requires us to cover. So there's that additional support for the family if in the event the child needs to be out, they have that added coverage.
Okay. So can we talk a moment about recertification for CCAP? What is a family certified for a certain period of time and then they have to recertify? What would cause the need to recertify?
Great question. As I understand, and Lila, correct me if I'm wrong, certification generally goes 12 months unless the kiddo is Head Start related, and then we would align with Head Start, in which cases some families may have a longer certification period. If the family, and CCAP has three ways that it branches out. So I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier, but one of the ways is low income CCAP, which is generally what majority of our families are receiving. That is income based. That is probably the majority of the clientele for the school district. We also have something that we call child welfare CCAP. That is any family that has engagement with child welfare services is entitled to CCAP care. That is limited to 3 months at a time. So every 3 months, that's re-up. And then we have what we call Colorado Works Child Care Assistance CCAP, which is the families receiving some sort of cash subsidy from our agency. And so based on receiving that cash assistance, it automatically qualifies them for the CCAP program, in which case their certification is simply based on their enrollment in that program. When their enrollment in that cash program ends, their CCAP under that criteria ends, and then they have to re-enroll. So that could be 1 month up to 60 months potentially. However, speaking to the low income CCAP families, they generally recertify every 12 months unless their Head Start and a recertification packet goes out 45 days ahead of the time that they need to recertify. And during their approval period, we do not make any edits or changes to their case, to their payment from their parent co-payment or anything like that. So if the family gains new employment and they're making higher wages, we are not going to adjust their parent fee during their locked-in period, if you will, while they're under their approved time frame. When it comes time for recertification, then we will look at all of their new circumstances to their household and make edits. The only time we're going to make an edit during this current time frame related to UPK is when it's to the benefit of the family.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Jasenia that we haven't covered? I realize that this is probably not as relevant to most of you as the next 2 sessions that we're going to do, but you know, it's good to know what's out there for families. So, any questions? Okay, Jasenia, we'll see you in an hour and a half or so. Thank you very much appreciate it. And I'm going to stop sharing now and give you all the opportunity to ask any technical questions you need, any assistance you need at this point, anything you want to discuss from a school district perspective. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask is, do you think that in these monthly meetings that it is worth your time to do a separate roundtable from center providers and from family childcare homes? Or would you prefer to just jump into one of the 2 of them as you need assistance?
I think the hard part about answering that question is not knowing what the conversations are like on the family center side. If they're very focused on their specific needs, or if they are more focused on the same needs that we would have. I know the conversation around 3-year-olds probably drives everybody outside of the school district nuts. But hopefully we're coming to the end of that one.
Yeah, hopefully we are. Well, how about this? How about if we plan to do one more that is separate from everyone else? So we'll do the November one in a separate school district piece. And then we'll see how that feels at that point, whether or not it makes sense to even continue to do that. I think the thing for me is that you guys have so many opportunities to engage with both CDEC and CDE. I mean, they're constantly doing town halls, et cetera, whereas I think the other providers do not have as much of that opportunity. And so at this point, I am, I just want to make sure that, we don't want to leave you out. but we also don't want to waste your time, right?
Yeah, and we appreciate that. And if there are things that we can bring because we have those conversations and support the community providers, we're more than happy to do that. We view this as we're all in this together and we're all partners.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Then does an 11 o'clock time frame work for you? Anybody else have any thoughts about that? Jennifer, Brandy? 11 o'clock is okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your being here today, and keep an eye out for the next roundtable, which will be sometime toward the middle to end of November. We'll stay away from the holiday, of course. And we will see you all then. And we are available to you for anything you need, and just let us know. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.